Welcome back to the podcast. Today I am in person with my guest, Sarah Carroll, who I have known for years. We went to college together. She is a master debater. She won debate challenges in college. She went on to get her PhD. She was a college professor, and now she's a programmer for the Salem Public Library. I did a presentation there yesterday, and we started talking, and I thought, wow, how would you like to talk about one of the lessons in the Creative Grief Freedom Formula? We're going to talk to you today about liberation, and how important is that in this world that we're living in, right? So I'm going to let Sarah do a little introduction, give you a little history, and then we're going to dig in.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I left academia 10 years ago, and in hindsight, it was the best thing I could do for myself. But I got to tell you that I went through a grief process afterwards, and I didn't realize at the time that it was grief. I didn't acknowledge it as such. Dawn and I have been up for about 2.5 hours talking about all sorts of things. One of the things that I discovered after listening to her last night, talking this morning, is that I have liberated myself from a lot of the grief. I also have to admit that I realized this morning I haven't liberated myself from all of the grief, so that's something I still need to work through. It is so important to let it go, to free yourself so that you can move on. We can't create new space if we're still holding on to that space.
One of the things we talked about was women have this unseen barrier, this glass ceiling that is imposed on us from cultural beliefs, perhaps religious beliefs, even the fact that we are women as opposed to men in this masculine type world. How do you break through that? Because it's okay for a man to say, I'm going to do this and be really confident about it. But sometimes when a woman has those same aspirations, we're viewed as the bee, or she's never happy, or she's just not satisfied, or why does she think she needs that much? We're going to liberate you today with this discussion. So one of the things that Sarah and I were discussing, which I am going to challenge her a little bit, is to reach her full potential and to put out into the world her ideas, her thoughts, because she is a master debater, and she's one of the smartest people I've ever met. She talked about writing a book. Maybe that's in the future. She talked about different aspirations. Maybe that's in the future. That's for Carroll to decide, and that's what liberation is all about. Like, what liberation is discovering your hidden genius zone. I know mine is to help people with grief. You know, we talk about traumatic loss and death, and that's what everybody thinks about when they think about grief. But liberation involves grief of letting go of a career that used to define you and moving forward to find your true genius zone. So I want you to talk about that, like what that was like initially. You know, you've got this PhD, you're a tenured professor, and just one day you're like,
that's it.
I'm letting go. Even though it's the right decision, we know we're making the right decision. It is such a grieving process.
Well, and especially, so I jokingly say I dropped out of college at age 50. Because that's the reality. I went to college, met Dawn in college, and that's where I stayed. I didn't leave academia to work in the corporate world. I had one job offer in the corporate world that I briefly entertained, but my entire career had been defined by that community, that environment. So when I left, and I chose to leave because I knew the timing was right, I was unprepared to live in the real world. I remember crying for days trying to figure out health insurance. The first time I had a computer issue and I couldn't call academic computing for support, I just about lost it. So all of these little things. But I tell you what it gave me was a much deeper, richer understanding of how the rest of the world lives. When you're in academia, you're not in the real world. It's the ivory tower. We teach thousands of students, but we're not living their life. We're looking at problems and solutions and trying to advance theory and trying to work with each person who comes through our door to make them a better person. Along the way, you sort of forget that you're supposed to be a better person too. So that was the cocoon from which I emerged and butterflied into, and then you're transforming, right? And so how do you do that? It was probably the first 3 years where I was stalking what was going on at the university. I still wanted to know who was teaching what class. I couldn't seem to let go. And then I realized I was grieving that loss. Although I thought I was prepared to leave, I hadn't prepared myself emotionally to leave. And what we were talking about today is it's the emotions and how you feel and how you're perceived and all of that. So I think you need to ask me another question because I think I got way off.
No. Actually, that is part of the grieving process. And it's something that we often forget or people don't acknowledge, that when you leave a job that has defined you, that you've poured your entire being into, even if you know it's the right decision, you grieve that loss. And as I've said before you get to that transformation, before you get to that liberation, you have to go through that grieving process and acknowledge it and feel that pain. But yet there's tools that we can use to help us emerge as the beautiful butterfly. And I've talked about this before, that grief is not like this linear path, like getting through it.
Right.
It's still a part of you. It's something that you carry, but now you carry it with grace. So Sarah moved on. She followed her heart and her passion, and now tell them what you're doing.
I call it my second act. I'm an outreach programming assistant at the library, and I get to sit in my office and develop programs for adults and for adult living facilities. I do, on average, 5 programs a week. In the school year, it's a little bit more than that, but I work with adults of all ages and children, and it's great because when I was hired full-time, I said in my interview, I'm all about mind, body, and soul. All of the programs had to have some component that was educational, that couldn't be just purely entertainment, it had to be minimally edutainment. That's how I connected with Dawn, because this year's summer reading program is Color Our World, and I thought, what better way to celebrate recovery and color at the same time than to bring in an expert who uses creativity and color to help people heal through the grief process. So it was such a pleasure last night to have Dawn with me again at the library, and the 2 programs that she presented was so widely accepted, and everybody just absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Some of the things we did yesterday, we explored the grief lessons. We incorporated several of the lessons into one project. So the first project we did like an abstract tree of life, and we acknowledged our grief. We wrote people or things on our paper, ripped it up, and transformed it into this beautiful tree. But the other thing that we did was we made a collage or an abstract piece of paper to pass on. So it's almost like, we are part of the solution. We were part of the solution last night. And just the act of doing something like that, and that's what I think is so honorable about the job that you're doing right now, to help other people do a little bit of liberation. The other thing that you might not know about Sarah, she's living in her childhood home, and it's out in this beautiful countryside. There's hummingbirds at the window. I'm looking out, there's a rabbit in the yard. They have deer, birds, and you can maybe hear the birds chirping in the background. I don't know if the mic's picking that up, but it's such a peaceful, serene place of being. I want you to talk about what it meant for you to leave academia, leave where you were living, and come this
back.
place,
Right, yes.
in your childhood home, and what that opened up for you.
Whoa. So I think I was in 5th grade when I realized I had to get out of here. And so from 5th grade forward, it was, how do I get out of here? How do I get out of here? So my mom passed 9 years ago. And at that time, I had already left academia, and my husband had left his job as well. So, unofficially early retirement. And my siblings said, why don't you guys move back? So we moved back, and moving into this house was more than I expected, but also exactly what I expected. I was challenged on so many fronts, working through issues and things that had happened in my childhood. I have a much clearer understanding of my mother and the issues she went through as an adult living in this house, because I was frequently taken back to seeing Mom in a particular place and seeing her emotions, and that really drew me to understand what was going on in her life, because she was raised at the time where when you were married, your name suddenly became Mrs. Sterling Carroll, for example. That was my father's name. But my mom always signed her name Edna B. Carroll. So she never adopted the Mrs., even in 1960 when she was married, which is interesting. In case you didn't know it, women could not get credit cards under their own name until the 1970s without their husband's approval. Women truly lost their identity when they took a spouse because they became Mrs.
So you moved back here.
Yes, sir.
It was such a transformation and
Yes.
such a learning experience, a
Very
rich
much so.
learning experience. But this is the thing about transformation and growth. People think, you just emerge, it's this beautiful butterfly and everything's wonderful. Growth has growing pains,
Yes.
and they're big and they're real, and that's why it's difficult to transform unless you have some guidance and some background to help you through that, because we like to stay comfortable. We don't want to have pain. Grief of loved ones, it's painful, but that pain is in direct contrast of happy, joyous, and free. So now you're here, you've experienced some of that pain, and now you can truly enjoy right here,
Yes.
right now.
Right, you're right.
So she's doing these programs at the library, and we're talking about nature, right? And I'm bringing that up as that's one of the lessons that I've learned on this grief pathway, how nature is so vitally important to healing. And it doesn't matter if you're hiking the trail or if you're going out and picking up a leaf and using it in some type of a project or having plants in your home. And then she tells me she's doing these nature projects at the library. But this morning, we go deeper. I am going to have a link to your products at the end of this video. Sarah does many programs, and one of them is Purium. And it's all plant-based, it's all nature, and how we nourish our bodies from the inside out. So you can bring nature into your home and go out in nature, which is extremely healing and therapeutic. But what are we putting in our bodies?
Right.
I wanted you to address that briefly so people understand what that means.
So I'm going to talk about a word called epigenetics. And epigenetics is basically the science about how our bodies rebuild. For example, our blood is completely cleansed every 120 days, but not every blood cell is cleansed every 120 days. Otherwise, we would probably die because it would be so powerful. So it's a slow process. Like the heart is rebuilt cellularly every 4.5 to 5 years. Epigenetics says that when our cells rebuild, if they are dirty and diseased, they rebuild as dirty and diseased. However, if they are clean and free of toxins, they rebuild clean and free of toxins. I had my arm like this for a while. For 3 years, it was like this. And I saw a new chiropractor, and his approach is different. My arm no longer goes out like that because he was able to train my body slowly, surely. All of these muscles, all these cells rebuilt, and they rebuilt, and my arm was back to where it is. So that's, if you detox the organs and nourish the cells, that's how we actually reverse age as we get older. So that's, and the cleanest nutrition that you can put into your body is what you ultimately want to do. But you also have to detox. because if we don't get the junk out of the trunk, it doesn't matter how much gold we put in there. It's not going to be effective.
Right. Yeah. And so one of the things that I saw her doing, I'm just not a shake person. I like to eat natural foods and holistic foods, but about a month ago, I had pancreatitis. I know that it was some external factors, such as I was very stressed at work. I was working a lot of hours. I felt overwhelmed. Still doing my practices, but it was that season of overwhelm and not eating the healthiest. She was doing this product this morning, and I'm like, what is that? Yeah. I really want to know about that, because that is something that I could do. Some simple ritual to add to my morning to help detoxify my body. Because let's face it, if you're living in the world today, you're putting toxins in your body. Yeah. I don't care if you're buying all organic, you're putting toxins in your body. So tell about that particular product.
So this is amazing. I've been using this product for just over a month now. It's a spray. It has the essence of 44 different plants, and working together, it floods your body with plant stem cells, which means that you age in reverse. The main thing that it does is cleans your blood. So I'm on a 4-month blood cleanse protocol, so I do this little spray. And our blood cells rejuvenate every 120 days. So I'm 1 month into it. So 25% of my blood is brand new and detoxed. That's what this little spray does. So it's absolutely amazing. I've also been using it on my cat. The neat thing about using it with animals is that they have absolutely no placebo effect. So any results you see in them is absolutely pure, because they have no idea. People are having huge results with their cats. My oldest, who's upstairs sleeping right now, seems to be more energetic and happier than she was about 3 weeks ago. So yeah.
That's awesome. As I said, we'll have that in the notes. Getting back to the whole liberation, I thought it was really important to bring up working from the inside out, because we can do all the things. I'm teaching a lot of those in my Creative Grief Freedom Formula, all the lessons, and we can use all of these lessons. But if we leave out cleaning our body out from the inside out, we kind of miss that foundational piece. And that's why I thought it was really important for Sarah to come on here and talk about that, because had you not, I know you got into this after you left academia, and I think it was part of that liberation process, right?
Absolutely.
So she leaves that, she starts detoxifying her body from the inside out. And she's also done other things besides the plant therapy. You know, she's forged a new career path. She's awakening. We've talked about some of her dreams this morning. I don't care how young you are or how old you are. We always have dreams. We always have a true hidden genius. When we get to our highest level of health and wellness is when we can make those dreams come into reality. And I see that for you. Look out for Sarah, because yes, she does offer this supplement, but she's got a wealth of things that are coming. I see it. Like I said, master debater, smartest person I know. Barry's pretty smart too.
Barry is pretty smart. I typed his papers for him when he was in law school. Before they met.
Isn't that funny?
I know.
It's just the synchronicities of life, and you know, when you look for things, we were talking about that too. The way you choose to look at the world is the way the world is going to come to you. So if I get up and liberate myself to write about all the beauty and all the greatness and the opportunities and everything I'm grateful for in the morning, I'm going to experience more of that throughout my day. Like, what an honor it was for me to come here and deliver these 2 classes to a room full of people. I could actually see the little transformations that they were having.
Right.
And some of them, as I walked around the room, I had a woman share with me about the loss of her daughter. She just poured her heart out to me. I had another woman talk to me about the loss of her husband, and somebody else lost a friend. Then we wrote these beautiful mantras that were personal to us, and we kind of paired off and bounced our genius off of each other.
Right.
And I think that was what made it more magical. So we talk about AI, and AI is a wonderful tool. I'm not going to deny it. But it will never replace human connection.
That's right.
And there's something magical when you put two humans or three or more together in a sacred container.
Yes.
To develop ideas and thoughts and processes. I just want you to talk about your experience with that from yesterday. Then save this, share it with your friends, subscribe, and we'll travel on. Go on.
From my perspective, I was actually part of the program, which is very unique. I very rarely have the opportunity to do that. I was part of it as a participant, not an observer, facilitator, or anything. I mean, I passed out what I needed to do, but so I didn't hear and see these interactions that Dawn had with the other participants, but I was able to observe with my eyes and see transformation in several faces from how they entered the room and how they left the room. And I had conversations with a couple of people, and I could hear and feel that something had shifted in them as well. And then afterwards, I was speaking with my manager and talking about how important the program was for addressing issues of holistic health. And that's what we are both on, is it's the whole person, mind, body, and soul. You have to work on all three together, because that's really the path forward.
Yes. And the other thing I want to talk about transformation. Sometimes when you hear the word transformation, you think what I have experienced is transformation comes in little tiny increments.
Yes.
It's almost like the analogy of the frog that you put in the boiling water.
Right.
If you throw a frog in a boiling water, they're going to jump out. But if you put a frog in lukewarm water and you slowly turn up the heat, they're going to cook. To me, that's more of a transformational journey. It's little slow pieces and increments, and you travel on this pathway. You infuse these practices into your daily life, little bit by little bit. For me, diet and nutrition and cleansing has been like one of the last things, but it's a part of the puzzle. So you do all of these tiny little increments, and then before you know it, you've emerged as this beautiful butterfly. And we all have that opportunity.
Me too.
All right, thank you so much for joining me. We're off to an art festival that I am a participant in.
Yes.
And Sarah's going to help me. So I do hope you check out her offer in the show notes. And what is the website? How can they reach you if they need to?
drjams@comcast.net is an easy way. drjams@comcast.net is my personal email, the easiest way to get in touch with me directly.
Yeah, and if you want to get in touch with me, you can download the journal that I have in the offer, because then you'll be on my email list, and I am going to be opening up the Creative Grief Freedom Formula very soon, and the people on my email list are going to get first dibs.
You're going to love it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much again for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
Thank you, and we'll see you next week.